So welcome once again to this section. This is day 3 in web development training. And if I could remember, we started with general introduction to website development, where I started with the definition that web development is a process of building websites using various programming languages. Then after that, I talked about programming IDE as softwares or applications designed for us programmers, either web programming or app programming, to write and execute our code. Then we also talk about the front end and the back end of a website. I started by defining a website, and I said a website is the collection of web pages. And I did say that the web pages are different interfaces within a website, which are created to display content to users. And then we talk about the languages involved for developing the front end of a website, where I discuss HTML for creating the content, or for defining the structure of the website. And then I talk about CSS as a subordinating language, that is a supportive language for styling the HTML content or to determine the presentation of the HTML content in order to give users or visitors of our website a good experience. Talk about JavaScript as a web programming language, which is used to add some interactivity or action to a website. Then we also talk about the back end. Then at the end of the day, we started looking at how to use some of these HTML tags. We started with introduction to HTML, where I said HTML is a markup language, which is basically used to develop web content. Okay, I told her that the HTML defined the structure of a website. So there is no web programmer that does not use HTML directly or indirectly. So we started mastering tags. I told us that when you are speaking or using HTML as a markup language, you need to know what tags are. We describe or define tags as the keyword that are surrounded by the angle brackets. For example, we started looking at the heading tag, which is this, which I said it is used for creating headings in a website pages. And then we'll also look at paragraph tag, which I said the paragraph tag is for explaining the heading. In other words, the paragraph tag helps us to create articles, to create multi-line text within our web pages. So we also talk about the image tag, which I said they are used for adding images to our web pages. I hope you are with me.
Yeah.
All right. So I think so far so good. I have explained 3 different tags: the heading tag, the paragraph tag, and the image tag. Now, we also started introducing CSS. If you remember, we have started introducing CSS. That is why we have all this. And I define CSS as a styling language, a language that helps us to decorate, to beautify the content that will have been added through the HTML language. Now, I said to give your visitors or your web users good experience, you need to enhance or improve the appearance of those contents. You need to add some color. You need to, redefine the layout so that all your content can be better presentable and readable by the visitors. And that is why we involve CSS. Now, if you remember, I said there are 3 ways you can add CSS. So in this particular class, I'm going to be using the external CSS addition method. In the last class, I used internal. And I know I must have also talked about inline. Remember, I told us that there are 3 ways you can communicate CSS on your HTML contents. Do you still remember that? There are 3 ways
Yeah.
you can communicate your CSS on your HTML content. For example, when we wanted to style this H1, we use, look at it here, we have to come here and say what? H1. So this is internal. And I said we have inline. Inline is where you write like this now. Okay, this is not internal. This is not inline rider. So there's no inline method, but I know I must have used that before I switched to internal. But just to recap, because it has been a while, so I said there are 3 ways you can add CSS. It's either you add CSS inline. Inline means that you are styling, you introduce style. If you can still remember, you are writing CSS code directly inside the HTML element. Okay? So for example, if I want to change all this letter to capital letter using the inline CSS method, all I need to do is to activate this attribute. Remember, I told you that this is an attribute, right? And I said attribute provide their properties of HTML that provide additional information about the HTML element. Now, in this case, what is this attribute providing? Which additional information this attribute is providing? This attribute is used to introduce CSS directly inside what? The HTML code. And that is why once you have activated it, you declare your CSS properties and value inside what? The value section of the attribute. So I could just say, since I want the whole of this to be capital letter, so I'll simply do text transform, and then I will say what? Uppercase. So if I go to the front end by viewing it with my lifesaver, you will see that what? I have changed the whole of this to what? Capital letter using inline CSS styling. Inline CSS styling. Now, I could remove it from here. And send that same styling to this test if I want it to be here using the class name H2. So I can come to the head section here, since I've already selected it, and say test transform. And then I could also use the upper. And then if I go to the front end, you will see that what? That still work. So this one is internal. This one is internal, where you write all your CSS in the style tag within the head section. Okay? Now, I said in this class, I will be introducing different tags, and I'm going to style them with the external CSS. I'm not going to use internal today. I'm not going to use inline. I am going to use the last method, which is the external. But before then, I want to bring in different tags. Remember that we are still on HTML tags mastering. I use comment. We are still on HTML tags, mastery. Okay, that's the topic we are still dealing with. And I explained to you that the reason why we are going this way is that we want to quickly understand some of these building blocks that will be used to build the real website. So what we are doing right now, we are rehearsing them. We are practicing them individually before we start using them to build real websites. Okay? So I want to add more tag in this section. And the tag I want to add is called body tag, HTML body tag. Now, let me start with, like I said, we are looking at the first tag called what? HTML body tag, HTML body tag. So I want to start with this very tag. So what is HTML body tag? HTML body tag is this tag here. You know, once we activated, the moment we activated the default file, we were automatically given what? The body tag. So we don't have to create it manually. Okay, so what I'm saying is that supposing you create a new file, let's just say, just to test, let's say test.html, okay? And then I click outside. So I have a new file without any HTML code. Then if I type HT, and that will prompt me this option. So I'll select HTML5. So you can see that by default, it has given us what? Body what? Tag. So it is not like the H1 that did not show by default that we have to type by ourselves. So it's part of tags we need to understand, even though it was given to us automatically. So we need to understand the role of this body tag. Okay? Did you understand that?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Okay. So let's quickly look at the definition. What is HTML body tag? What is HTML body tag? What is HTML body tag? So how do we define it? So the HTML body tag is used to create HTML content. For example, look at it, or let me just define it this way. The HTML body tag is used to create the visible content in the web browser. Now, if I could go back to the front end, you see that what all these information we are seeing right now, they are all within the body tag. Do you agree with me? They are all within the body tag. The about us, which was created with the H1, the digital Z hub, which was created with the paragraph tag, and then these two images that was created with the image tag, and then of course this particular heading tag that this heading that was created with another heading tag, they are all within the body tag. So if I could just show you the structure, this is exactly what we are talking about. You can see that all these are inside, they are inside the body tag. They are all inside the body tag. So the body tag is the first container in which you write whatever you want the user to see.
Sorry.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay. So I'm still on the HTML body tag. I said it is used to define the body contents of an HTML document. And then just to explain further, I said it contains all the visible content of the web page. And that is why I have to give us this selection. So this is to tell you that this is the container, This is the opening section of the body tag, and then all these, including the comments are not executable. All the live code, they are written in the body tag, which means that if I go to the front end of this website, the body tag is, enveloping all this information. All these informations are written in the body tag. Okay, is that clear first? Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting
If
it.
it's clear, what I want to focus on is how to use the HTML body tag to manipulate HTML document background. That is the topic. Let me write it here. How to use HTML body tag to manipulate the entire content, entire web content background. So that is the topic, how to use HTML body tag to manipulate the entire web content background. So for example, the first thing I want to teach us tonight is the default background of the browser is white. If for any reason I want to change it to black, I want to change the background red, I want to change it to blue, that could only be done with the body tag. So now that we understand that the body tag encloses all of them, so it is the body tag that you speak to, not the H1, not the paragraph. So in that case, I'm going to use CSS. Now, in every HTML document, can only have one body tag. Here we have H1. I can have another H1. It is not allowed to have one body tag, another body tag in the same document, in the same file. You can only have one body. Okay? Now, since we can only have one body, it then means that there is no point of classing this particular body because no one is going to compete with it. It's the only one we have in this file. So there's no need for me to do something like this. I don't need to say I'm classing it because after all, it is only one you have per page. Okay, exactly. So I will just call it by its
Got
name.
it.
And I'm going to teach you how to use external CSS. Like I told you before, we are not learning with the internal CSS. We've taken care of that in our previous class. We are not also using inline. We are only using what? External, which is the best practice. Okay. Now for external, that is the reason why you created this folder. So this folder was actually created because you have planned to use external CSS. So which means I have to create my CSS file in here, not in the file. So the external CSS style means both the HTML and the CSS file, they are separated. They are not in the same file. That is the meaning of external. Okay, now remember I said internal means both the HTML and the CSS, they are in the same file for different what? Section. Inline means both the HTML, inline means the CSS is written directly inside the HTML element. So now let's get that right. So what I will do is that I will click here to make sure that this arrow is facing down, and then I will navigate to what? Add file, which means that I am creating that file inside what? The CSS. And the CSS is inside the main folder, online coding. Is that clear? All
I'm
right.
getting it.
So I will say this particular CSS, I'm creating it to style what I have in my index.html. So I will name it index, but the extension will now be .css, no longer .html, just to indicate that you are creating CSS file, not HTML file. Then I'll click outside. Now, this is where I am going to be writing all my CSS while my HTML code will be in their respective file. Okay, so with this, I have separated my CSS file from what? My HTML code. Is that clear? All right, perfect. Now,
Yeah.
since you have separated, the file, there is need for them to be connected. So they need to see one another. So you need to link this file to any of the page where you want the CSS to be communicated. So how do I do that? Then you go to the HTML. You go to the HTML and then you go to the head section. You come to this place. You come here. Now, all these things that we have written here, I am going to take them off from here to that um, external. So I would not want my CSS and my HTML code to be together so that if there's any issue, I can easily debug it. That is the reason why you are not meant to write them together. So I'm not copying the style tag. I'm not copying just the CSS. So I would say Control S. So I've cut. So I don't need this anymore. I don't need this. So I'll delete it. I will delete this, Then I'll go to the CSS file that I created and paste. I'll come here and paste. So now, if I go back to the front end, you see that what? They are no longer what? Style. Why? Because you have pasted the CSS in an external file, but that file is not yet connected to this. So what I will do now is to connect the CSS to this file so that all those properties can quickly style what? This content. So how do I do that? See what I'm going to do. So I'll come in here and then go to the head here, press enter here, and simply type link, and then press enter. Then this show that what? The CSS style sheet. Then here, this is where you are to specify the URL, the address where the CSS file is that you are connecting to this particular file. So I will just put /. That / is to call all the directory in my root word folder. Then I've already know where I'm going. I'm going to CSS, and then you see that file here. So once I click here and I go back to the front end, you can see that what? There is communication and all the CSS have reacted. Did you understand that? Exactly.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. So
Yeah,
now,
it's clear.
I want to, from here now, I want to change the page background. That's the first thing I want to do. I want to change the background from white to black. Now, for you to manipulate this document background, there are 3 colors you can use. One, you can use solid color. So let me use a comment to explain it. There are 3 different background styling. There are 3 different HTML documents background styling. So what are they? One, styling with one color, which is called solid. So whenever you are styling with one color, it is called what? Solid. For example, white, only white filling the entire background. So I'll go to my CSS and write what? Styling the entire HTML documents. Background with one color. So remember I said the body tag is in charge. So I will just say what? Body. And then open my CSS block. So I will just say background color. Background color. Then I'll say, let's say what? Which color should I use? Because I know I have black text there so that they will not be overshadowed. Let me choose blue. So if I go back to the front end, you can see that what? I have changed the entire what? Background of my document. There is a text here that is using the same background. So I need to go and change it. Okay. Now, that is for one column. So if I want to use red, I'll put red there. Okay. And then I can also check. You can see that what? I have changed the background to what? Red color. Did you understand that?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so I'm going to pause for 5 minutes. I want you to change your document background to red as well. So try it now. Change the body, change the document background from white to red. Try it now. Let me see.
Okay.
Get it. So look at, just go back to your HTML. Go back to your HTML. Click on your index. Click on the index file. Let me show you the error there. Click on it. Yeah.
I think I
Good.
connected it.
No. What you connect
The problem here I wrote
is good.
is here the problem.
So, CS good. Now check. Should be able to go now. No, check. There's still a problem. Go back there, delete it and do it again. Let's see. So clear it. Let me see it. No, you're actually correct there. The issue is the connection of the two
Let me
files.
just try to
CSS have not
save.
detected your HTML. The connection is not properly done.
Okay. Now I got it. The problem is here. I should write CSS and slash.
Yeah, so you can see it. Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, that was good.
All right.
That's good.
Let's continue so you can share your now this is one color, solid color. So let me show you how to use another method. So let me comment this out first. So the second method is this one I say styling with one color. So the second method is here was I writing my code. Let me see. Okay, so the second method is using gradient color, or let's say background color. Background color, using gradient background color. Now, gradient means missing two or more solid color. For example, if I go back to the front end, I want part of this to be red. Red will start from here and stop here. Then blue will continue, just like we are missing two colors together. That is called gradient. You can mix red and blue together to form your background. You can mix yellow and another color to form your background. That is called gradient. So that is what I want to achieve. So how do I achieve that? I'll go back to my CSS So let me use my comment. I'll say styling the entire HTML document with, let's say what, mixture of two solid colors. Mixture of two solid color. So you cannot use both of them. That's why I commented this. If you are using one, you have to silence the other. So I'll still write it here. Now, I will just say background. I will not say background color. I will just say background. Background. Then I'll type what? Linear gradients. Linear gradients inside it. Just because I want to mix two color. Background, linear gradient. Now, I'm going to use what we call ROGBA. ROGBA is another way of using function to calculate color where you don't know the name of the color. Okay, so best practice implies that you should know the three major ways of using color. Is either you call color by name or by what, or with ROGBA or with hexadecimal. These are the three ways you can call color. All this while we have been calling red, blue, that is referencing color by name. So if you don't know the name of the color, what do you do? So you leverage on ROGBA to calculate it for you. So ROGBA is a function that calculates color based on the combination of numbers. Now watch. So I will say what? ROGBA is a function. I'll open it bracket. Now the R represents red. The G represents green. The B represents blue, while the A represents alpha, which is also called opacity, that is to transparent. Okay? Now, each of them must have their values represented inside the function parameter, the parenthesis bracket. So, for example, if I want red, I will say 255 is the highest value you can use. 255 is the highest value. Then I'll put comma, I'll put zero, I'll put comma, I'll put zero. That will generate red because you are saying that what? 255, 100%. The green, no color. Blue, no color. That is why you have red. So if I go to the front end, you see that what? I have the red color. Well, you know what? What I want is if I want to reduce this red, maybe the red is too sharp, I want to drop it a little. That is when you will now bring in the A, which is the alpha or the opacity. So you put a comma, is usually a decimal number, let's say 0.3. Look at it, that have reduced the red. So the red is no longer sharp. So if I go back to the front end, you see what I have now. So there are some colors that you may not know their names. So all you need to do is to use ROGBA to calculate them, knowing the value of each of those what acronyms. Now, is that clear? Do you understand it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it.
Now, if I put 6 here, you see that what is smarter than the first one I was having. So if I say, okay, I don't want to reduce it, so I will silence this. That will give me what? The full red. That will give me the full red. So I'll remove the comma so that the color will be active. Now, what I want is gradient, not using one color to fill the entire document. I want to blend red and blue in order to complement this. So this is what you do. You are still this bracket is for the linear gradient. This is the closing part of it. This one is for the ROGBA. This one is the closing of the ROGBA. So you come outside here and put comma and then call another word ROGBA. GBA, and then you open. So this is how I want to call the next color. So I will say blue. Now, since it's blue, here will be 0. Here will be 0. And here will be 255. That will give me what? Blue. Now, if I go back to the front end, you see what happened? You see the kind of color you have? So you see red entering, the blue. So this is gradient fill. Now you may need to change your text color to white if at the end of the day, this color is no longer going with the right one. So now if I want 3 color, let's say I want red, I want blue, and I want yellow. What I am going to do is to go back, come outside here, and then put a comma and do another ROGBA, and then open your bracket. Now I want to calculate yellow. So what I'm going to do is this. I'll just define black first. 0, 0, 0, 0. We give you black. Okay, so if I come back to the website, you can see that what I have a field of what? Black. Now I want to change it to yellow, and I don't know the number to calculate yellow. What will I do? I will just touch this box. So once you touch this box, once you touch this color bar, you will see to bring our color bucket. So you click here. So I'm looking for this. So I'll just click on the section. So this is the calculation for yellow. So I have automatically calculated this. So if I go to the front end, then I have it. I hope you are following. All right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that is for gradient fill. That is the second one. Remember, I said there are 3 ways you can manipulate the background color of your document. The last one I want to teach us now. Okay, let's assume that part of this is gradient, then the other one is an image. How do you do it? Now, you must have added the image to image tag. So let's say I want to join this picture as part of the background color. So what I'm going to simply do is this. After this, let me use this one. Let me remove this so that I will not have too many colors. So I'll simply come here. Now remember, you come outside the linear, the linear. Okay, I think there is a bracket that need to be closed. That's why you are having this red. So let me calculate it. This one, closing, this one, closing. So I need to delete this one. Okay. Now you come outside the linear. You come outside the linear gradient, and then you put a comma. You put a comma, then you now type URL, and then you put slash, and then you call the image. Okay. Now, if I go back to the front end, we're supposed to be seeing the entering of the image, but let me see if I can remove one of these so that will just be only 2 of them, image and one of these, so that we can see it. So let me remove this. I hope we are correct here. I think to remove one. Okay, so let me check. So now let's add opacity to this one so that it will not overshadow the image. So let me just say opacity 0.3. So if I go back here, you see that what? The image was there, but that color was actually covering it. So the moment you add the opacity, it will make the image to come up. But remember that the image duplicated itself because it's not big enough to cover the entire page. So what will you do in this kind of issue? You will just come here and say what? Repeat. You will say what? No repeat. You can just say what? No repeat. You can just say what? No repeat. So what you are going to do, since it's asking for this, let me see if, in fact, okay, let me just do it here. This is going to be, okay, this is not where I'm going to apply it, but at least I just want you to see how it works. So now, let me delete this so that we can see it first. Okay. Now, what I want now is only the image. So which means that I will have resized the image to make it big so that once I call it, it will fill the entire page. Okay. So for example, this particular image, if I should go to Paint and increase it to like, let me show you what I'm talking about if we can easily get it done so that you understand it. Let's assume that this is the folder where we have those images. So I'll come here. I think I'm using this one. So I'll right click on it and then select open with. So let me right click on it and select open with, which I must have showed up before. Paint. Wait for Paint to open. Okay, so I will just click on this icon. I will switch to what? To pixel. And then I will change it to 1024. Now I have just increased it. So if I click on save, now if I go back to the website, you see that it's no longer plenty again. So I have increased it and it's displaying very well. Do you understand that? So because it was too small before, that is why it was duplicated in many what places. Okay, now the last one I want to show us tonight is, remember I'm looking at 3 ways you can manipulate your HTML document with the body tag. So number three is using an image only as your HTML doc background. So now I want to use, let me comment this out. I want to use only picture, only picture. Maybe I can go to Google and get a very good looking background and use it. And the background need to communicate my service. If I'm into technology, I should get a good background that goes with technology. If I'm into, just like we are into electronics here, I need to get a background that goes with what? Electronic. So you don't just use background. Every background you are using should relate to the services you are offering. So now let me just go to uh internet, Google, and say tech, or let's just say what? Uh electronic. Electronic. In fact, I can say electronic background. Let me just take it this way. Electronic background. Electronic background. I can say electronic background. So I go to image. So I'll look for a very good one that will not overshadow the write-up. Okay, so I could just look for, let me use this one. So I'll just right click, save image as. So I'll direct it to that project folder, which is on desktop. And then I am targeting this. Go into the image tag and name it what? BG, let's say 1. So now I go back to my development environment. How do I use that picture to define my document background? I want that picture that we downloaded to be used to fill the entire document background. So that is using picture. That's the third one. So what I'm going to do here is to quickly need to off this. This I've turned this to comment. It should be comment, but let me delete this. All right, so here I will say what background. No, you still seeing this as comments. Let me check what I did wrong. Okay, so this is a mistake. So let me just stop here. So I'll say background image. So this is the one you are using because you want to use picture. Background image. So I'll click. Now, image is an external object. It's not built in the program. So you have to type URL in order to reference the image from its location. So you enter / in order to call out the root folder directory. Then go to the image, then choose the background. Now, if I go to the front end, you see that I have used that image as the background of my document. But you know what? It duplicated it into smaller unit because originally that picture is not as big enough to fill the entire document. So how do I stop the repetition? So it repeated it. So how do I stop it being repeated so that it could just give me only one? You now come back here and add background, background, repeat, and then you say no repeat. So if I go back to the front end, you can see that it has stopped the repetition. But at the same time, it's not covering the entire page. So how do I stretch it so that it can cover the entire page? What I'm going to simply do is this. So I'll come here, I'll bring in another property, which is called background size. Background size, I will say cover. In other words, you cover the entire page. So if I go back to the front end, you can see that the background is not covering. Now, one more thing is that supposing the important part of the background has gone inside, you want to shrink it in so that you can view it. So what you do is that you add background position, and then you can just say center, so that it will position it at the center. So if you click, you can see this part came out and this part came out. So let's assume initially you were not seeing this and you want this to be visible within the page. Now that you are using this background, there is need for you to change all this write-up color so that they can be visible. Now, one more thing is that if I scroll, let me add another image. For example, I go to my HTML structure and then I add another image. I add another element. Let's see IMG, for example, and then I reference my image folder and I call this, and then let me just give it a width, let's say 100%. If I go back to the web page now, you can see that my page is scrolling because now I have exceeded the default width. That's why it's moving up. Now, as the content of the entire page are moving, I notice that the background is also moving. So I don't want the background to move. I want only the content to be sliding on top of it. So each time the user move the page or scroll down or up, I want this background to remain in one place, while only the content will move. So how do I achieve that? As the last thing we are looking at in this session, I'll go back to my CSS and add this property, background attachments. I will add this one. Then I will say fixed. So if I go back to the front end and I scroll now, you can see that the background is no longer scrolling. So I have only the content scrolling. Is that clear?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Okay, so this is where we stop. I want you to go and, implement all these as your assignment before tomorrow's section, right?
Okay.
Okay, so that's your
No,
assignment. All right, so good night. If you have question.
thank you.
See you tomorrow.